Well, hello. It's been quite a while. Too long, actually, since I last made a video. Good God, look at me. I look terrifying. Oh, that's what a year hiding under a rock can do for you. It's just, oh, my goodness. At any rate, it was nearly a year ago that I finally finished the house cocktail videos for Halloween Horror Nights 29. With House of a Thousand Corpses. Now I look like somebody from that movie. Oh, maybe one of the sequels. Oh, Lord. But I must apologize for not doing a lot of videos. It's been one hell of a year. Oh, God. But at any rate, I'm still alive. For now, and and we have, it's that time of year again, and it's more importantly, it has now been a decade since I first, at this auspicious time of year, got up and revealed to all of you all secrets of Halloween Horror Nights 21 revealed way back then. Oh my goodness, remember that? That was the very first time I gave my entirely accurate and completely and totally verified pronouncements for what would be coming that year. As I have done every year since. And I know that there may be some nitpickers, because this is the internet, that will be saying, but wait a minute. I can find some factual information about about some of those events. It doesn't quite match up with what Dr. Jimmy had said in those videos. To which I can only reply, fake news. Yes, hoax, witch hunt, fake news. That's all that is, yes. Yes. My videos told you what exactly was going to happen, and that's what actually happened. At least somewhere. Anyway, yes, I was right all along. So, now for this year's completely accurate and totally on the nose revelations for the upcoming event of Halloween Horror Nights 30. 1 year later. Yes, yes, because it's the 30th Horror Nights, even though this is the 31st year. And that's because, of course, last year they had 3 houses during the daytime. It wasn't actually Horror Nights, but we got to see 3 things. And sold merchandise. Yes, because that's the most important part. Of course. Oh, my word. Like they did Mardi Gras with no parade this year. Oh, this has been, as I said, a most effed up time that we're currently trying to muddle our way through. And for some of us, it's even worse. Oh, so anyway, nevertheless, it is time now to reveal to you what the actual event will be this year in 2021. What will actually be Halloween Horror Nights 30, sort of. Well, first of all, they are doing 10 houses and 5 scare zones, more or less at Universal Studios, Florida, with some bonuses. Yes, because it's a special anniversary. So, the 10 houses are quite insane, as usual. And I'm very interested, and of course some have been sort of revealed already, but you don't know everything. First of all, pardon me, So it's a symptom of my blood pressure medication. I don't have the corvid. Corvid, you know, like a raven, a crow. Couple of ravens, actually, fly around and give me information. Anyway, inside joke, yeah, old one-eyed man like I am. Where am I? Oh, yes. You probably are aware that there is supposed to be a new theme park coming eventually called Epic Universe, yes. And one of the things that's been most highly touted about that is the Nintendo Land. And quite a bit about Mario and what was the what's that other thing? I forgot, but I really wish they'd do a Zelda thing. That would be quite amazing. But it's a lot of it has to do with Marios and princesses and Koopas and Mario Kart. And I think that there's another Nintendo game that's escaping my mind at the moment. But if you were in my mind, you'd be trying to get out too. At any rate, where was I? Oh, yes. It gave them an opportunity, though, to use a totally different franchise that has not been talked up at all very much, but people have here and there speculated on the possibility of its involvement at Universal in the future through this contract. Yes. Yes. The most lucrative media property in the world, billions and billions of dollars, currently enjoying its 25th anniversary year. What am I talking about? Well, I want to be the very best. The best there ever was. Yes. Yes, Pokemon. Those wonderful, wacky little critters. So what's frightening about Pokemon? Are you kidding me? Giratina is Satan himself. There's Gengar and Haunter and Ghastly. There's the little Miss Traverse and, of course, the Miss Magius. There's all of those delightful ghostly creatures. Even some of the not-so-ghostly Pokemon. You know, like Cubone, for example. It's wearing a mask made out of its dead mother. I mean, how Leatherface can you get? Oh, my God. But oh my goodness, the spooktacular creatures. The ghost type, as you know, there's, in addition to the normal types like little Pikachu and little fluffy bunny characters and that sort of nonsense, and water types like your Squirtle and your fire types like your Charmanders and all of those, and Vulpixes and little fluffy, furry, fiery creatures, in addition to the grass types like the Bulbasaur and the Meganium and the Chikorita, those things, in addition to your what is it, the ice types and steel types and rock types and ground types. You do get to some very intriguing types of Pokemon, dragons and fairies, a little more magical, but then you get to the interesting ones for our purposes, dark and ghost. And so, yeah, there's some spooky-ass Pokemon out there, and they know that, and they had an opportunity with this contract with Nintendo through there to say, hey, maybe we could do a Pokemon-themed haunted house, but they contacted Niantic and some of the other companies involved with some of the games, and Game Freak and the Pokemon Company, and they were very enthusiastic because they could do it, multiple theme parks, including the one in Japan. They said, oh my goodness, this will be a perfect opportunity during the 25th anniversary year when we have so many special projects lined up to do a new interactive Pokemon Go game at Universal Studios, exclusive to Universal Studios, for people who play the Pokemon Go, as well as a fun experience haunted house for those who don't. But those who play the game will get a bonus. The house will be called Pokemon Go to Hell, and will feature all of the darkest, scariest Pokemon creatures that will be popping out and attacking you. Your balls ain't gonna save you this time. No. No, no, no. But those who play the game can encounter them on their phone in rooms that seem to be less crowded. That, you know, you'll be able to see them there interacting with the environment that you're in. And those you can actually catch some of the ghosts and creatures, including some that will be introduced to the game for the very first time, like dear little Mimikyu. That creepy little ghost that dresses up like Pikachu and is quite horrifying and insane, and which has not yet been in the Pokemon Go game, even though some characters have worn Mimikyu costumes. And the Mega Bayonet will be debuting during this event for Mega Raids in the house, but exclusively in the house during Horror Nights. Quite wonderful. Those of you who play the game are probably really excited. And of course, scare actors as the various Pokemon creatures and special effects that will be included. Be quite wonderful, especially since that company will be sending things to help make the house better, to augment it for the game, and even maybe some animatronics that are outside of the normal Horror Nights budget, and projections and all kinds of wonderful stuff. Okay, now the second house is also an IP. It is based on a Netflix program. As you know, Universal had a little contract with Netflix, allowing them to do, I believe, a haunted house, a couple of them based on a TV series a while back on Netflix, and they were going to do another one based on a different TV series in the aborted Horror Nights last year. Well, this one is a Netflix series, a little different than the ones they normally adapt. But it was such a popular program last year and has imprinted itself on everyone's mind. And of course, as I said, it is, of course, an anniversary year. 10 years ago, when I did my first All Secrets Revealed video, you might remember that was the first time they actually used a live tiger in a haunted house, as I had revealed that year. Some of you may not remember that clearly because, well, you probably were drunk. But, yes, that time, of course, they used some electric fencing type collar to so the tiger but it didn't prevent guests from walking right up to it. The tiger couldn't attack the guests because the collar prevented it from going past a certain point in the room. Unfortunately, there's some dumbass guests that go all the way up to the tiger, and that's why they haven't done it since, and they've covered it up, and that's why you haven't heard about it, except for my video 10 years ago. Yes. But this time they figure, well, the hell with it. We'll just put the tiger back in the house again. And, of course, the popularity of the Netflix series, Tiger King. So we're going to have a house set in the insane world of the Tiger King. And, yes, you can see lesbians getting their... I'm sorry, she wasn't a lesbian. You'd think she was, but actually he was a trans man. You didn't know that watching the series. You just assumed this was a lesbian. But you find out afterwards, if you did a little research, that he was actually not a lesbian. Never mind. But getting their arms bitten off, I have to do it right. You have to understand who people really are and not misgender them. But getting their arms bitten off, and the fellow has authorized the use of their likeness for the house, and of course the frightening horror of the marriage ceremony between Joe Exotic and yes, he signed off on it too because he wants as much publicity as humanly possible, even if it's negative in a haunted house. And so you yourself can be a redneck straight boy marrying Mr. Exotic so that you can get methamphetamines. Yes, that's a horror. And of course, the climactic scenes in the haunted house will be the encounter with the tiger, and Carol Ballard herself may make special appearances because she lives right here in Florida after all. But you'll be covered with sardine oil before you encounter the tiger. I hope you get out of the house okay. Oh, what fun. Mm. All right. Interesting timing. She shows up just when I'm talking about the Tiger King. Oh, funny cat. All right, so the next house, well, they did a tooth fairy house during the middle, between the years, between 29 and 30. They did a tooth fairy house last year. One of the three houses that they did last year presented for us. It's a little bit different. It was quite interesting. A lot of people thought maybe tooth fairy meant evil dentist. That's been done to death. So many people have tried to doing a tooth fairy like concept. It turns out to be a wicked dentist. Done to death. So even amateur haunts do that quite a bit. The dentist, demonic dentist, that sort of thing. It was a really nice one with a demonic dentist quite a few years ago, right near here. I think over at the Baldwin places. I'm in Winter Park, of course, but down in Baldwin Park, I believe it was a really nice haunted house featuring an evil dentist a few years ago. But again, it's been done so much over the years. But it's the cool concept. It does tend to strike fear into people, but dentists nowadays are so painless. It's over in just a little bit, and you don't really suffer the way people used to back in the day, and drills and like in the Little Shop of Horrors, where you had to be an actual masochist to enjoy it. Well, so they thought about that concept. What sort of, office visit is really, really frightening nowadays? What would terrify people on some basic level? And they were thinking, well, of course, strapping on some gloves. This is not a house about an evil dentist. No, but the other end of the gastroenteric tract. Yes, this will be proctologist from hell. Yes, this is the evil proctologist. And you get to ride a colonoscopy. That's like your Willy Wonka's boat ride. Basically, has it. Oh, quite horrific. Go through the canals of your own bowels and your own colon from the inside out. Quite horrifying. Can you imagine what might be lurking in there? Good heavens, is that a tapeworm? Yeah. So, and the fourth haunted house will be, as nowadays, of course, as they adapt media, it's not just television and video games and motion pictures, especially in a year where you don't get to go to the cinema so much anymore. Oh, what are they going to use? Well, they want to tap into what the young people are doing nowadays. What's the new media, right? Well, it's this shit. This tube of you. Yes. And, and so they also, it's a lot easier to acquire the rights. That is, you don't have to pay so much to get some YouTube video makers. You can pay them off, especially if they're like local, very close by in Orlando. And there's this young comedian right here in Orlando named Ben Brainerd, who does his hilarious sketches on a semi-weekly basis with all the states of the country personified as people living in a house together called the State House. and has actually referenced Horror Nights at a couple points because he's from right here. So why not to return the favor and make a state house of horror with his assistants? And so you go in there, and the more extreme things that happen in some states are exemplified, like the Jersey Devil, the Wisconsin death cults, whatever they might come up with around the nation that is insane, evil, and twisted and sick, all presented by Brainerd's characters, especially Florida, because Florida is truly the place of the damned. Yes, take bath salts again. Yes, exactly. Oh, so that's 4 haunted houses. I don't know where any of them are going to go, except they'll pretty much be at Universal Studios theme park, with one major. No, that's it. They're all going to be at the studios, the haunted houses. That's where they're doing the event this year again. All right, Dr. Seuss, though, has a whole big attraction at Islands of Adventure. There was a time. Oh, yeah. Hello. There's some Scare Zone characters from the past, from 2002. Yes. There was a time beginning in 2002 when this t-shirt was new. That rhymes. Yeah. Anyway, that the whole event was moved from the studios over to the islands, where it was for a couple of years, at least roughly 5 years, including 1 year where they had a sort of dual effect, both parks, and then brought everything back to the studios in 2006, where it's been ever since, except for last year, where they had 3 houses at the studios, but no real event. What would that be? Horror Nights 29.5? I suppose. Or Halloween Horror Days, where you're dazed in the daytime instead of out at night, whatever you want to call it. You are a pussycat. She's right here, just begging for attention. That's the Lenny Gat. But where was I? Oh, yes. Well, one of the places at Islands of Adventure that they could never actually incorporate into the Horror Nights was the Seuss Landing area. Oh, they filled it with fog and called it Booville the first time, but they really couldn't do anything there because the old man's widow, and she's gone now too, by the way, Mrs. Giesel, said, no, you can't use any of the Dr. Seuss characters that in a scary way for Halloween. And the current company that runs the whole Seuss empire, the heirs and people who take care of that, are very protective of the brand as well. They've always wanted to do something with Seuss in a scary way, because there's some stuff in Dr. Seuss that's frickin' terrifying, like those pale green pants with nobody inside them, for example. Well, how could they do that? And well, this year, for the first time, they're given permission. You see, you might have heard a bit on the news about a certain number of books. I think it was 6 or 7 books, or 5 or 6 books. I don't remember how many they were, but they were not going to be published anymore because they might contain some imagery that could be considered insensitive. And so they're going to ban those books. Not only ban them, but it's in-house. And nobody from outside said you can't do that anymore. No, they decided they're not going to publish these books on their own. Never mind the wild conspiracy cancel theories that have been flying around from people trying to distract from other things that are going on. But nevertheless, those Seuss people called up Universal and said, hey, we're not going to ever publish these books anymore, so if you want to use them for Horror Nights, go ahead. We don't care what you do with it. So they're going to finally get to do a Dr. Seuss haunted house using those particular books. They just have to leave the racist shit out. Yes, to think that I saw it on Mole's Scary Street, yes. There's not much in those books they can do with, but they'll do something, I'm sure. Uh, some sort of dark creature of evil crawling out of McGillicuddy's pond, or whatever the hell it is. Oh, so where the hell am I? Alrighty then. Yes. Now, there's one house that has been announced already. You all are quite aware, and some people who are lucky enough to get to the park on the actual weekend of Halloween for a couple of days actually saw the house if they were right quick and got in. And if you weren't able to get to Universal on that weekend, you missed it. And you might have seen the other two houses they were presenting. You know, the Tooth Fairy one, the Bride of Frankenstein one, but the Beetlejuice house was only out for a minute. And some people, like I had a good friend who had gone through the other two houses with me, but they couldn't do Beetlejuice because they decided to take that weekend to go to Tampa. No, you were right the first time. Okay, and to see the how those scream in a most unsafe manner, because they were doing it unsafely, even though the Universal had the good sense not to do the Horror Nights during a pandemic, for God's sakes. But anyway, so they missed the chance to see Beetlejuice House. Well, you've probably seen videos of the house because people took them, and of course, if they did the house this year, it would be pretty much the same, although they might not need all the plastic barriers, except it isn't going to be the same house at all. They're trying to get you to think that, because then you would go in and we would miss the surprise, of course, if you didn't know the truth. Yes. So they want you to think it's the same house, so that when you go in, it's like, oh my God, this isn't what we saw before. Yes. It'll be a Beetlejuice house, but it won't be based on the movie. It'll be based on the musical. Yes. That was on Broadway. It's all going to be from the musical, with the musical numbers and productions, and all the different variances between what you saw in the movie and what you saw on stage. So the haunted house is actually Beetlejuice the musical. And in addition to the scenes from the show being in the haunted house, that'll be the main stage show for the event. Yes, because they can't do Bill and Ted anymore. And there's some issues with Academy of Villains now, apparently. So that's what they're going to do as a stage show, but also built into the haunted house as well. All right, seventh house. This is a bit weird. I'm not quite sure. An original house. I am not quite sure where they're going with this, but what I've heard about is the seventh house, an original house, will involve, I think someone was saying, and damn me if I believe, this house was based on something people were joking about backstage one time, where the arts and design were having a discussion about, 2020 bingo. And they were saying, okay, anyone had murder hornets? What about aliens? They said UFOs are real this year, and, who knew? And Australia's on fire. So, what's next? And somebody said, tiny dragons wearing hats. And I'm thinking that's my guess as to where they got the idea for this house. Because I can't think of any other reason why they would do a house featuring primarily tiny dragons wearing hats. But there's a plague of these beasts attacking, and it could be quite good. The little puppety stuff they've done before, and there's an infestation of dragons attacking people, but dragons wearing hats. Yes, it isn't like Game of Thrones, because they've all got little you know, like this one, or little Viking helmets, or derbies, or you know, football helmets, what have you. All sorts of hats worn by little dragons as they attack people. I'm not quite sure where this came from. It might have come out of a puff of smoke, you know, like a magic dragon. I have no idea, but that's what I've been... My sources tell me will be that house. Well, let's see. And, well, of course, this being the anniversary, the 30th anniversary, 1 year late, they have to address the history of Horror Nights and have an icon house. And, of course, they're going to do that. Everybody knows they're going to do an icon house with all the old fellows, Jack and the caretaker and the director and the storyteller and the usher and Chance and maybe Lady Luck and maybe Eddie, although Eddie was never really an icon, you know, and probably not Bloody Mary because of the whole stupid copyright issue, which has always made me, always felt was a bit daft. I mean, how the hell can you copyright an urban legend? I don't know. All of that. Of course, everyone's expecting it, and they will have to do it, but they're going to do it a little differently, of course, because it's got to be something fresh and new, and they were inspired, I think, by some silly program on a competitor's network. I think it's called Descendants or something. Maybe that's not the actual name of it, but there's certain arch villains, you know, like a sea witch, and a sort of Empress of Evil, Fairy Queen of Evil with horns. There's like an old hag with an apple. You know, there's a pirate. You know, these iconic villains of a rival company to Universal, and apparently their teenage offspring have a television program on one of those Disney channels, if you know what I mean. So perhaps they're inspired by that, and I have to be very vague for the fact that the mouse has vicious lawyers. We don't want to get, you know, our friends in trouble, but basically that might have been the inspiration for our concept house, featuring the offspring, the descendants, if you would, of the icons. So this house will be called Icons Gen Z, and it's the little shits who are the, you know, adolescent and pre-adolescent descendants, the kids of the icons. So Jack and Chance, for example, had twin girls. And they're about, you know, 12, 13 years old, and one of them is very much like her Uncle Eddie, and the other one is much more like her mum and dad. There's a gay boy named Larry Agana who takes after his grandma and becomes Bloody Larry. That's the way to get out of a copyright infringement. Just good old gender switch. And lots of other wonderful, wacky, you know, Albert and Elsa have a kid, for example. That sort of thing. And so this is what the house will be, the new generation of little shits that will take over for the old ones. Of course, Cindy's already out there. She'll actually be like the older sister of these monsters. She's like presented as college age, but all the others are going to be more high school, intermediate, middle school age kids. With the millennial Cindy kind of putting up with all of them, and they are totally exasperated by the little shits. Oh, you know, like Fear and Luck's kid, for example. He was just a little monster. All right, so we're almost done with the houses. The ninth house, and again, they tried to do a Billie Eilish thing last year and got into problems at the end of it, and then they couldn't do the event, so it was for the best. Oh, but pop music has become a thing now. I had quite fun with the whole Rob Zombie scares in 2019. And of course, Alice Cooper was rather successful a few years ago. Um, that was nearly 10 years ago. And then, of course, in Hollywood, Mr. Murdy's had quite a lot of success adapting various musical acts from not just Alice Cooper more than once, but also Black Sabbath. So it's a possibility, and so they've considered for years now using other musical acts. And last year they had the idea of using Billie Eilish, something new, not just pick some old shock rocker from way back when. I mean, kids today, are they going to relate to Marilyn Manson or are they going to relate to Billie Eilish? It makes more sense. But they decided, let's just go with something that's going to bring in the crowds, that will cross over to mainstream, something that's really, really popular. And so they decided to incorporate BTS. Yes, they're going to do a K-pop house. BTS, of course, means behind the screams. Yes. Isn't it weird that this K-pop band is called Behind the Screams? It seemed to be a lovely coincidence, so they went ahead and brought them in to do a haunted house where they get trapped across the border in North Korea and have to try to escape to Seoul, or they're going to be damned for all time. Kim Jong-un will devour them. Yes. That sounds like fun. All right. And there'll be unicorns, evil unicorns, because we all know that unicorns exist in North Korea. And they invented the hamburger. Yes. Oh, let's see. What's next? Oh, yes. The 10th house. We finally got to the 10th house. And this is what I know the least about, but it's quite exciting. It's the most exciting. And some of the stuff I've talked about has been quite silly. And oh, yes, I know what day of the year it is. This, however, is with a little nugget of truth that is often hidden in my videos. As people have always found something. They said, wait a minute, that's not... He might be serious in here somewhere. This might be it. As you know, Universal has always tried to encourage young people, especially those who might become the creators of the future. All of the great people who had ever worked at Universal, like people from the past, like Mr. Roddy and Mr. Aiello, who's gone on to other things now, some at other companies, in Aiello's case, within Universal, as he's become the great entertainment director for the upcoming Epic Universe. But at one time ran Horror Nights. These people come and go. It's the way of the world. But they all started out as kids, and some of them started out as little team members that working in the Jaws ride or some such thing. And some of them before that, might have done their own haunt somewhere in high school. Like that kid in Baldwin Park. There are lots of other kids out there who do their shit, who build their little haunted houses every year and get a little name for themselves, hoping that someday they could get a portfolio and get to something like A&D. And these youngsters with their bright-eyed imagination and their creativity want to encourage that. So what they've decided to do is, starting this year, in this anniversary year, is to start a special project whereby they will select through a contest, sort of, or through applications, not really a contest, but they'll take applications and they will select a young person whose designs and creativity impresses them to the point that they will use these concepts to build a haunted house. so to speak. And these are, and I don't know much about this year's house because they haven't actually picked the person who will be doing it yet, but they're looking now. In fact, if it hasn't already, I think it has already, if you go to the Horror Nights website, you'll find a place where you can click, and there you will be able to submit your own application. Those of you who are haunted house builders or have ideas about them, and you can submit that application, and they might select your ideas for this 10th haunted house. So go now and write it all down and get your application, your ideas, your dreams, your haunted house, and submit it while you still can, because they're going to pick the person very soon, because it's already coming on into April and May very shortly, and they'll have to start building the thing. So that's very exciting. You could have your own haunted house at Horror Nights, built on demand, sort of, not on demand, but yeah. All right. Now, there are also 5 scare zones at Universal Studios this year, and again, there's not that much sketchy information, but I have to point out Terra Cruentus is coming back. It was supposed to come back last year for the 15 years since, Halloween Horror Nights 15, the cycle of the Queen. She comes back every 15 years. That's what they established in Halloween Horror Nights 15 back in 2005 at Islands of Adventure. So they're going to bring that concept back 15 years later. Well, now 16 years later, because last year they couldn't do it, but this year they're going to do that. And they're going to have 2 separate Terra Cruentus scare zones at the park in different areas of the park. I'm not sure which is which, but I think one is on Hollywood Boulevard and the other's probably up around the earthquake, Fast and Furious San Francisco area. But basically, they want to do 2 different versions. They decided, knowing the audiences, that there's some people who like one thing and others who like something else entirely. And so there is going to be a Terra Cruentus with basically drag queens in Hollywood Boulevard. Like the Terra Queen, only not exactly, with fabulous versions of these sort of characters, whereas the other one around San Francisco is going to have, actual girl strippers on poles and bikers and shouting. So like 2 different groups of people, one would appreciate one and the other would appreciate the other more, based on their own level of fabulousness versus meat-headed fraternity boy douchiness, which are 2 different cultures. Another scare zone will feature bears with nunchucks. Like somebody gave some bears nunchucks. What the hell are they thinking? But yeah, that would be an amazing scare zone. Actual bears coming at you. Then there's going to be a scare zone in Central Park, which is because this is not only Halloween Horror Nights 30th anniversary, it's the 10th anniversary of Halloween Horror Nights 21. And so one of the greatest scare zones of all time from Halloween Horror Nights 21 was Night Maze. And they're going to recreate that with Night Maze in the park, in the Central Park area, which is basically Night Maze with a sort of garden grown evil aesthetic. So basically lots of shrubberies that block your way and things in black. Very wonderful for those who are minimalist and not so expensive, because they have a budget. And then of course they're going to have a scare zone which is not based on any recently released motion pictures they couldn't get the rights to whatsoever. No, it's not. and this is a disclaimer, they want to make sure everyone knows it's not based on any motion picture that they couldn't get the rights to whatsoever. So if in New York Street there happen to be monkeys battling lizards, battling robots, that has nothing to do with any motion pictures that have come out. And so those are the 5 scare zones. But now the bonuses I told you about, and this is very exciting. There's a bonus haunted house this year, like that repository back in 2016 for the first time, and there'll be a little upcharge, but this will be a lot more fun, because what they're doing with this, again through the Blumhouse connections, there was a silly movie released last year from Blumhouse called Freaky. Yes, it was sort of like Freaky Friday, except it was serial killer and a girl get their minds crossed, and quite fun. But there was a whole sequence of the movie that took place in a haunted attraction, and they were watching the movie and thinking, well, you know, Blumhouse wanted to do a house. They said, hey, let's do something bigger than a house. And based on those sequences in the movie, they're going to make a miniature golf course. Yes, so it's the Freaky miniature golf course, and so with a little bit of upcharge, you can go and play a few rounds in this house. It's a haunted house with the killer coming after you, but at the same time, you get to play the miniature golf. It'd be quite wonderful, just awesome. And if you don't believe me, watch the movie, watch Freaky, and then you'll see just how well it would work as a miniature golf. That particular sequence. It would be quite fun. And the other bonus is a bonus scare zone, because I haven't mentioned the icon, and there will be an icon for the event, and of course it's the Terror Queen. But she doesn't reign over Universal Studios, she never has. So on certain select nights, they're going to take guests by Hogwarts Express over to Islands of Adventure. Now they'll cover up the Harry Potter bits, because the J.K. Rowling doesn't want that incorporated into Horror Nights or Warner Brothers or somebody. So you'll just be taking a night train to Terra Cruentus, basically. When you get there, you'll be taken to the Jurassic Park area, to the kiddie part of Jurassic Park, because that's where she'll be reigning. The Terra Queen, they're reimagining her, and the word Terra will now be spelled with a P. P-T-E-R-A, Queen. Yes, she'll have great big wings, because she's now a were-pterodactyl queen, and she will be floating up overhead, flying around on a zip line, attacking you that way, presenting a marvelous Terra Queen, and the whole legend of blood and bone, but in a new dinosaur way, there at the Pteranodon Flyer area of the Jurassic Park area of Islands of Adventure. So that's a big bonus scare zone area where you get to meet the icon of the event. Oh, and so that is my completely accurate All Secrets of Halloween Horror Nights 30 revealed. And hopefully I might be able to make some more videos before next April. Oh, well. This is Dr. Jimmy, wishing you the best. I hope you survive. I'm not sure I have. Oh.